Thank you very much, Jose. Yes, you did it. You did it. You did it within the assigned time. Very well. I think that Santa Fe's proposal is really worth highlighting regarding an indicator based on number of people in vulnerable areas based on urban planning and the effect of urban planning on this indicator. I would like to say to the four speakers that in the same order that you spoke, if you could please answer a very simple question. If we were as we are now, but instead we were sitting as mayors, putting forth to the UN from our experience, which should be the main change that you as mayors would introduce in the post-2015 framework of action? What is the single issue that you as mayors think we must include within the 2015 framework of action from your experience and from your success stories? If we may begin with Aura. Yes, I would say that what we would be needing the most is risk management in a cross-sectional manner, coordination, integration. When we achieve integration from the public, the private, the civil society areas, what's local, what's central, we find a synergy. And in this synergy, we're all acting in the same direction. And then we can see how it is a lot easier to carry out risk management actions and better results are obtained. And we will not have to endure those catastrophes in our municipalities, because if we plan amongst ourselves, we will all adopt the measures. And if we are all pulling in the same direction, it makes it all much easier. Thank you. Mr. Jonas Donizetti. I believe that a great challenge in that area of resilience for the cities and for the cities to get ready to face these natural disasters and situations that put populations at risk. It is at everyone's level, the public, the society, the private sector. We have had meetings with the businessmen in the cities, because in companies, in businesses, a lot of the time, each business has its own contingency plan. But when there is a large magnitude event, it will affect everyone. If you have someone who is living in an area that is flooded, that person will not be able to get to work, and it will also affect the productivity of businesses. So one issue is not to think in an isolated manner. That joint action to look for answers is very important. And I believe the following, that when we gather federal, state, and municipal governments, this is a very important action. I am by nature municipalistic. I believe in local administration, local actions, and thus every strengthening that can be given to a local manager so that he can make the right decisions, the right actions. Talking to his community, including his community, is extremely important for prevention and rapid response in a situation of emergency for a municipality. A lot of the time, credit lines or the funds that have been offered for works, they have such huge red tape that there's another catastrophe and the works are not carried out to the benefit of the population because we have to tend to the catastrophe. So social controls is very important. Control of public funds is very important as well, but it's also very important when we require an agile response that we are able to do so, that red tape is not an obstacle to practical actions to the benefit of the population. Thank you. Paul? I would say that it is necessary to highlight certain elements, and I would like to conclude with an idea that may become a proposal for this meeting, which could be applicable in the different territories that have different characteristics. This is to say, every territory will have its different considerations and connotations when we are managing risk. But I think there are common elements. First of all, prevention. And that prevention has a lot to do with planning in our territories. Secondly, corrective measures or mitigation measures, which represent reducing vulnerabilities. Thirdly, it seems to me that we must also consider risk from a reactive perspective. This is from a capacity to respond or to rehabilitate when damage has been generated, when an emergency has occurred, when a problem has risen. And I think here, this is an aside, just to tell you that in the case of Cuenca, in the same way that it has been stated by the colleagues here, we have managed to achieve a relocation process for those families which for some reason or other have lost their homes due to a natural disaster. Another fundamental factor in this reactive perspective is that we have to strengthen our institutions, not only from the legal constitutional perspective, but that our institutions should be able to generate, for example, a risk management committee, which in the case of Cuenca we have managed to achieve through these very close bonds with the other institutions. So the capacity to react to an emergency is fundamental because we can reduce the impacts, especially from a human perspective. And these experiences, as the ones that we have shared today and the ones that I'm sure we will discuss throughout this meeting of this regional platform, I think it's very necessary to make them systematic through international organizations so that we can share success experiences. We learn a lot more from our experiences, from what we have lived. And I believe these experiences should be shared, and I believe that will be a great task, to systemize these experiences, to create typologies, and for those experiences to be useful to all of the territories, in this case for local government management of risk. Very well. I would like to really acknowledge the place given in this meeting to local governments and this campaign of resilient cities, because we all know that mankind lives mostly in urban areas, and this is particularly so in Latin America. But beyond that, this is going to continue to grow for two reasons. First of all, because the global population will grow, and because the urbanization process will continue, so cities will grow. And depending on how that growth is planned, we will have an impact on our catastrophes and disasters, which can deepen and be even worse than what we have lived, or on the contrary, we may have more suitable living locations that will be less vulnerable. And that is why the highlighted area that local governments, the highlighted roles, that local governments must play is very important, because we are usually very weak governments, but we are the ones closest to our citizens, and thus there is a greatest demand on local authorities. We are the ones in the front line of action, but we also have less resources, even technical resources, everything that's needed to develop public policies. And that is why we must stress something. It is that as global governments, global strategies have included local governments, these should also be included by regional, national strategies, so that we can strengthen this level, which is the front line, to the one closest to the city, that of local governments within the framework of national strategies, and aligning local governments to this approach that has to do not so much with mitigation, but with sustainable development, because we have an opportunity here. If cities are going to grow, we have an opportunity to get them to grow properly, suitably, so that future development in years to come will have us less vulnerable to risk and to the great harm caused by these disasters, which, as we know, are a result of a combination of nature and lack of planning of mankind. Thank you. Very well. Thank you very much. I believe that as people who have lived the experience of the local government, the needs of each one of the mayors that have participated in the panel is summarized in just acknowledging the importance of the local government in the process of building resilience in the cities, and to put forth to multilateral organisms and to the post-2015 framework of action the importance that should be truly given to the access not only to financial resources but every kind of resource, as the mayor of Santa Fe was stating, to local governments to build not a criteria of disaster risk reduction, but of building and development of resilience in cities through planning, through building grassroots social agreements with the communities, and the inclusion of criteria that will permit risk control room or an arena that will be a meeting point, a committee that will allow for resilient work in cities. If any of you would like to make a final comment, you have 1 minute. I just wanted to share with you an experience that we had in Campinas, and it's important. And it is to create a committee to approve public works, so that there is integration between the management of sustainability works and the issue of resilience works. Sustainability is not associated to, is not separated, I'm sorry, from resilience. They both share the root a lot of the time. A public work that is being carried out either for sanitation or for improving the drainage of the soil of a region will have an influence on the part of sustainability, and thus it is very important that the cities and that the municipalities have that support to create that joint between resilience, which is what we are trying to do. We are trying to give a response to the resilience of natural disasters and also the generation of more sustainable cities. Possibly many, not all, but many of the consequences that are being faced by municipalities today is because during a long period of time the sustainable part was not linked to the resilience. So if we are looking for sustainable growth, we will also be building more resilient cities. Very well. Thank you very much to the members of the panels for their participation. I would like to thank you for participating here, the public, and we would like to conclude by inviting you to please join us tomorrow to the declaration of mayors that is going to be carried out by Mayor Jose Corral, and to also inform you that we are working on the document of the voluntary commitment of local governments to be presented to the summit in Japan next year. We would also like to invite you to participate in that, precisely because of our interest in generating the greatest possible consensus on that. So the mayors who will meet will convene at the end of this panel to discuss this, and whoever wants to participate in that conversation, please, you may do so. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you.